let's I finished talking about Antwerp.
You didn't tell much about it.
Huh? I didn't tell much about that. Alright, anyway, I've been talking about Schwab's. Let's go on to the next stage. The next stage was going back to Antwerp and meeting my future husband. And the first time he came to our house, he came one evening, and my Uncle Benno was there also. And the two of them were talking to my parents and to me, and each one trying to dominate the conversation. Eventually they both left. The next day, no, and Benno said there's an international fair in Brussels and he would like to take me. I didn't react. The next day he came, he wants to take me, and I said to my mother, I don't want to go. And my mother said, yes, yes, go. So, all right, so I went with him. So we drove to Brussels and we walked around the fair. It was a beautiful day in September. And then he offered me to buy me some ice cream, and I said, no, I don't want any. I could not stand it. Doesn't want to buy, doesn't want any ice cream. He thought there's something wrong with the still. No, doesn't want ice cream. I didn't want ice cream. Then eventually we got into the car to drive back to Antwerp, and suddenly in the middle of the way, he stopped the car without saying a word, jumped out of the car. I didn't know what was happening. And then I saw him, went to stand next to the building there along the way. It was Dublin Milford. Well, that I liked. Because I had been going out in London with a number of young men who were, they were trying to shadchan to me, and for my taste they were not religious enough. But here, a boy, a young man, out with a girl for the first time, and stopping in the middle of the way, not to miss the time for him, for that was something. And
Who introduced you? How come you came to the house?
his parents had been to visit my parents before already, and then they sent him. I mean, maybe there was a shadchan in between, so. And then he started coming. He was doing business every week during the week, and then Motzei Shabbos he would come from Amsterdam after night, and then the drive took about 3 hours, and then we would go walking together. And then he took me out very elegantly to a pub where there was, what do you call it? Huh?
The violin?
No.
Card.
Huh?
Cards?
No, when you go with balls.
Pool.
Billiard game. We would play billiard. He told me to play billiards. We played billiards and have coffee there, and that's the elegant way he took me out. And he came every Motzei Shabbos, and then once we were walking along the river and the harbour there, and we were sitting down on a bench and talking, and then he said to me, when we are married, we'll do this, that, and the other. I said, what do you mean? Well, aren't we getting married? That was the way he proposed. And then we had eventually a nice party for the engagement in our house in Antwerp, which was not a very big house, but we had a party. And we set the date for the wedding on March 10th, which was 2 days after Purim. Purim was on Sunday, and we got married on Tuesday. And then he decided we were going on a honeymoon to Palestine. And he made all the arrangements, the hotels and so on and so forth. Now we would go with a boat. So after the wedding, we left the next day and we went to Milan. And we were over the weekend in Milan where Benno had cousins. We didn't stay with them, but we ate with them. And then from Milan we went to Rome. We spent a few days in Rome. And we went to eat in the kosher restaurant run by Mr. Pinnes, who most probably was related. Pinnes family was related to my grandmother Fink. And then we went to Naples to get the boat. The boat we took did not go straight from Naples to Haifa or to Lebanon, but traveled around the Mediterranean. So it made several stops. The first stop was in the island of Rhodes. In each stop they stayed for 24 hours, and we could get off the boat and go sightseeing. So we went sightseeing, went to see the Jewish neighborhood. And the next stop was in Athens, that's to say in the harbor of Athens. But that was on Shabbos, so all we could do was get off and walk around in the harbor, which is a horrible place, and go back on the boat. The boat had kosher meals, and it was a whole group of Jews who were traveling on it, and most of them were from Poland and spoke Polish amongst themselves. And of course I didn't understand a word of Polish, Benno not much, but he got very annoyed that they were always talking Polish amongst themselves, and he was sure that they were talking about us. Then we were one day in Constantinople, and there we got off and we took a droshka, and the fellow drove us around to see the city, and then we drove on and we got off the boat in Lebanon, and when we said goodbye to the people who had been sitting at the kosher table with us, Benno said to them the only Polish sentence that he knew: "I understand Polish perfectly," because he wanted to annoy them and to make them think that he had understood all the conversations, which of course he had. And then we took a taxi over the mountains. There are two rows of mountains there in Lebanon, and over the one and the second to Damascus. And we stayed in Damascus over Shabbos. And not knowing anything about the Middle East, we got up a normal time and walked to shul. And of course, when we walked to shul, the people were already coming back from shul. And then we took a taxi to Palestine, and in Rosh Pinah we entered Palestine, and we went to Tveria. And in Tveria, we had been given the name of a kosher restaurant in Tveria, and we were walking in the street, and comes by a Yid with a beard and payas and a big hat, you know, the regular uniform, and Benno says to him, do you know this restaurant that we were recommending? Is it kosher? So, being a decent Jew, he didn't say, no, it's not kosher. He said, I'll show you a kosher restaurant. And he took to another one, not the one we had been recommended to. And there, we were sitting there eating, and the owner of the restaurant comes and says, do you see that man over there? That is Felix Bressard, a famous German movie actor. I said, Felix Bressard? He's my cousin. He was my father's cousin. And he was in Palestine because I think they were showing one of his movies there. He was there for it. But by that time, he already could not appear in Germany anymore in movies, and eventually he and his wife moved to the United States. and he appeared in a movie with Greta Garbo. I forget what it was called. Anyway, he did. His wife was very clever, very energetic, and got work for him in a few movies. But he died. No, he didn't die so soon. He changed his profession. He learned. He knew that he couldn't make a career in movies as a German. How much English did he learn? What was his English like, and so on. So he learned massage. He earned the last years of his life. He learned living as a masseur. Years later, when we were once in Los Angeles, he wasn't alive anymore, but his wife was, and I met his wife and spent a day with her. They had no children. Then we went from Tveria, we went to Haifa. And in Haifa, I knew a family related to the Schwab family with whom I had been living as a student in London. And we visited them. And he was an agent for real estate sales. So he offered us a plot on the Hadar HaKarmel, not right at the top, so halfway up. And there was a beautiful view there of the harbor, and we bought it. When we came back from Palestine and told our parents that we had bought this plot and told them what we paid for it, both of them, my parents, his parents, were furious, spent so much money on a plot in Palestine. But it wasn't a bad deal in the end, because years later we sold it at a very substantial profit. Anyway, it was a beautiful plot. And after, later on, when the state was established, Benno made the first trip to Israel without me. I had small children, and he went to Haifa to pay his taxes, real estate taxes. So he came to the fellow to pay his taxes, told him he wants to pay his taxes. So the fellow sat down and said, for so and so many years you haven't paid your taxes, so you owe so and so much for the taxes, so and so much for interest, and so much for penalty. The fellow said, you're crazy. I'm not paying. First of all, I'm a Jew, I don't pay interest. Secondly, a penalty? If I had paid all these years, the money would have gone to the British. Now it's going to the state of Israel. But the fellow didn't know what to say. And he called his superior, and he spoke Hebrew to his superior, figuring that Benno wouldn't understand a word he said. And he told him the story. He's Meshuggah, an American who is here, and he says he's a Jew and he doesn't pay interest, and he's not going to pay penalty, and so that, but he's willing to pay in dollars. Well, in 1949, Israel was not exactly in a very prosperous position, and the boss must have said to him, he wants to pay in dollars, grab him! And whatever he decided, that was the taxes, and not without interest or penalty, so Benno paid him. And after that, since we were coming more frequently, we made almost every year we made a trip to Haifa to pay the taxes on the plot. From Haifa we went to Yerushalayim because it was almost Erev Pesach. And in Yerushalayim, Benno had arranged for us to